Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Human Trafficking in View, the podcast dedicated to shedding light on the many facets of human trafficking. I'm Laura, and I'm here with my co host, Sam.
Hi, Laura. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us again. Today, we're going to focus on a specific industry that plays an often unseen role in this issue, and that's the hospitality industry. We'll be exploring how traffickers use hotels and motels, and more importantly, how the industry is responding to combat this serious problem.
Exactly, Sam. So, hotels, motels, and other lodging facilities can unfortunately be places where trafficking occurs, particularly for sex trafficking. So, traffickers tend to exploit the anonymity that hotels offer and use them as venues for exploiting victims. However, the hospitality industry is increasingly aware of this issue and is taking steps to fight back.
It's a really tough reality, right? But it's one that the industry really can't ignore. But I mean, I was, as you know, last year working very hard at the Olympics, and we had quite a common problem at hotels for both labor and sex trafficking, which is quite problematic. And the
Yeah.
good news is that many hotels are now proactively addressing the problem by training their staff and implementing policies and partnering with organizations that specialize in anti-trafficking efforts. And more should do that because at the end of the day, what we're seeing is that a lot of our trafficking occurring in hotels is happening with um the knowledge of management, right? So
Mm.
we found concierge who were booking um dates with human trafficking victims and human traffickers to send victims along. We found that in seasons where they have very high need for cleaning staff or laundry staff or other things, that they were illegally employing day workers and paying them almost nothing.
Mm.
And these sorts of things, are all part of the human trafficking spectrum. And I think it's super important that we delve into how this kind of typically occurs in these settings.
Yeah, exactly. So in many cases, it seems like traffickers are booking these rooms and using them to conduct illegal activities, often keeping their victims hidden from view. So they might check in late at night, book rooms only for a couple of hours, or avoid housekeeping services to avoid and prevent detection. Victims are brought in and out through back entrances, and often their interaction with staff is kept to like a really minimal basis.
Yeah, Laura, I have another company, iSales, where we help startups to, take their product ideas and make them a reality. And I actually
Mm.
had a submission recently from a young lady who wants to have a hotel app where you can book rooms by the hour. And bless her heart, she thinks that this would be great for like folks who are arriving too early before they can check into their hotel, or
Yeah.
arriving super late at night and have a flight just 3 hours later or something like that.
Yeah.
And I felt for her because I understand the problem. The challenge is that, can you just imagine how that will allow for illicit industries to take ridiculous advantage of hotels and motels and Airbnbs if you could rent them in that way?
Yeah,
Also,
exactly.
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and like the increase therefore in the number of people that will be going through the hotel makes it much harder to spot when suspicious activity is really going on.
Absolutely. Because it's the subtle signs, right, that are occurring in the hotels where hotel staff have to be playing a crucial part, because this is where the signs of who's a guest is the issue. So,
Mm.
for example, if someone is checking in and the person next to them is not allowed to speak for themselves, or you're getting a lot of unusual requests for extra towels and sheets, right? So if
Mm.
you're being requesting to change the sheets on the bed multiple times a day, and there's not like a child in the room, then that's quite unusual, right?
Mhm.
Or guests that avoid eye contact, or guests that never allow housekeeping in to clean the room. They just want the towels and the sheets. These can all be red flags if they carry on for multiple days, right? So it's perfectly normal for that to happen once or twice in a stay, but in a longer stay, if it's happening consistently, then that's something to consider. And making sure that staff at all levels of the hotel can recognize the red flags. So everyone from the doorman to the cleaning staff to the front desk to the restaurant servers to the, front desk supervisors and the hotel managers. It's critical because at every step, there's a very important way that people can assist. And having good training saves lives. And an example of that comes from the Super Bowl that we had in, I want to say it was the Miami one, but the survivor called from Tampa, which is about 4 hours away. And she was trapped in a room in a Hilton. And her trafficker was on his way back, and we weren't going to get there ahead of the trafficker's return. And so
Mm.
we were able to call security because Hiltons do train their staff and train them well. And so security was able to get her into an interior room with no windows so that she could be kept safe. And then
Mhm.
hotel security detained him until the police could get there. And once the police were there, they searched his vehicle and found rolls of cash, 19 people's passports, and a variety of other signs. And, he had lured her there under the pretext of being a model for his denim company.
Mm.
And he really did own a denim company. But immediately upon arrival had started taking her to Super Bowl parties um, all across Florida and forcing her to sell herself to the guests at the parties. And he was using a different hotel in each town
Mm.
for this to occur. And so because the staff were so well trained, this, obviously her calling us allowed the rescue to start and the cooperation with the hotel and law enforcement to occur. So you can see how important it is that making sure the staff can recognize the signs and can immediately deploy a safety mechanism will
Mhm.
literally save lives.
Yeah, absolutely. And unfortunately, like this is such a common story, right? Training here is absolutely the key for hotel staff, and many hotels, as you said, are now providing that specific training to their employees about how to spot trafficking. And this training includes everyone really, from like front desk to housekeeping to security, to make sure that everybody in that hotel is equipped to recognize and deal with that suspicious behavior.
Exactly.
So, another important aspect of the hospitality industry's response is the development of policies that guide staff to do what to do if they suspect trafficking. And these policies often include steps like notifying hotel management, contact law enforcement, ensuring the safety of the suspected victim, and having clear protocols in place really is essential for staff to start feel confident in taking action and kind of going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, the American Hotel Association is doing a great job with the No Room for Trafficking initiative, but we
Mm.
need that in every country, everywhere in the world. And we need like international hotel chains to have this because in addition to training and policies, we need the technology, right? So some hotels are using data analytics and software to identify patterns of suspicious booking behavior,
Mm.
such as repeated last minute bookings, unusual forms of payment, frequent use of the same room by different guests. And this type of thing is a key flag. And, others are using facial recognition, others are using a variety of information that's being shared with financial institutions as well. But it's
Mm.
super important that we are using whatever tools we can to help flag potential trafficking activities before they escalate, because the hospitality industry is being held to an impossible standard. And they are, for the most part, doing the best they can. Now, not
Mm.
every organization is doing that, but many are taking it very seriously, and that is what we need.
Yeah, absolutely. And collaboration with law enforcement and NGOs is another critical component that hotels that suspect trafficking is occurring on their premises really need to have these kind of strong relationships with local law enforcement so that they're able to quickly and safely report any incidents that occur. Some hotels also seem to be partnering with NGOs that specialize in victim support, like Rahab's Daughters, ensuring that if a victim is identified, they can be connected with the resources that they really need.
Absolutely, because a lot of times the international hotel chain doesn't realize that their local franchised hotel is actually collaborating with the traffickers, either for labor
Yeah.
or sex trafficking, right? So we had a survivor we got last summer who had come from a major hotel chain that's international in North Carolina. And because there's a case pending, I'm not going to give you the details of it, but I can tell you that she was sold by a family member into labor trafficking at this major hotel chain and was ruled by complete um fear for the most part, right?
Mm.
And what happens is, after a while, the labor trafficking is not enough, and they start to turn them into sex trafficking victims as well. And we don't want to see this kind of escalation, right? So we often see, particularly in women, that it starts with labor trafficking in restaurants, nail salons, hospitality, um, industries, and then moves into sex trafficking, right? By inviting them to parties and then turning them out. And it's difficult because there's also legal implications for hotels if they don't take actions. And in some
Yeah.
jurisdictions, hotels can be held liable if it's proven that they turned a blind eye to the trafficking happening on their property. And I'm in favor of such legal pressure, and that pressure has motivated many in the industry to take a more active stance. But there's still more to be done.
Yeah, and it's clear that the hospitality industry has such a significant role to play here in the fight against trafficking, but it is not without its challenges. I think one of the biggest hurdles is ensuring that all staff members from the top down are truly committed to these efforts. It's not enough just to have a policy in place, it needs to be actively enforced and supported by everyone within that organization, really.
And I think that that's the hardest part, right? Because not every hotel chain is, in fact, owned by corporate, right? Many of them are franchised. And so there's a limit to what hotels can do. Another challenge that obviously hotels face is that there's a very transient nature of hotel guests, making it difficult to track and monitor suspicious behavior. And traffickers have caught on to the fact that they can't put a girl in a room for 30 days or 2 months or whatever, because that will
Of
be too
course.
much. So the moving around of survivors between um hotels, Airbnbs, motels, and other hospitality industry housing means that it's getting harder and harder. So this is where, if things are suspected, we've got to think with hotel staff about a way to keep that information given to other hotels in their chain or that kind of thing. Because we know that
Mm.
um, loyalty points, even traffickers want free nights, right? So if they're booking hotels in multiple places, are
Yeah.
we sharing the data from one to the other, right? And if they're consistently booking them but not staying in the hotel themselves, then
Mm.
that's another, big piece of the puzzle that it would be useful to track.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly. So Another thing I guess we wanted to cover is what can consumers do if you're staying at the hotel. So if you're staying at a hotel and you notice something suspicious, please do not hesitate to report it to the front desk or hotel management. You can also ask about the hotel's policies on human trafficking and support those that are actively working to combat the issue. Your voice as a consumer can push more hotels to really take the action that's needed in this fight against human trafficking.
Another thing that consumers can do is there's a wonderful app that's available in the App Store internationally called Trafficking. And you can download it, and every time you walk into a hotel room, you can help us by taking some pictures of that hotel room in the app for us. Because that
Mhm.
allows us to, when a survivor snaps a picture of herself and says she doesn't know where she is, that helps us to provide a database of hotel rooms so we can better narrow down where we think they are and are then better able to find them. And it's a huge data collection necessity, and we need
Mhm.
consumers to help us with that, because in doing so, you can help us in our rescue efforts for sure. Also, if we're finding minors advertised online, it helps us to figure out where they might be being held. So it's a super important point that you can all help us to do.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as we wrap up today's episode, we really want to acknowledge the efforts of those in the hospitality industry who are taking a stand against human trafficking. It is a really difficult issue to tackle, but with the continued education, vigilance, collaboration, a real progress can be made.
Yeah, no, absolutely, guys. And thanks for joining us. Next up, we'll be exploring human trafficking signs and how you can recognize human trafficking. So we look forward to seeing you on the next episode.